Today we are going far away to see the most remote place in the world, the Pitcairn Islands. 5,000 kilometers from New Zealand and about 5,400 kilometers from South America, they are the last British colony in the Pacific, and the journey there alone takes ages. But the most exciting thing about the islands is their brutal history. All inhabitants are descended from a group of 9 British mutineers, who fell into extreme brutality due to the strong isolation, and of which only one survived in the end. So today's video is about mutiny, loyalty, and the sheer fight for survival. Enjoy! The first people to reach the archipelago were the Polynesians over 1,000 years ago. But how they lived there, and why they finally left the island again is unclear. And so the historiography of the Pitcairn Islands only begins in 1790, when the British frigate HMS Bounty was involved in a mutiny. The ship was responsible for supplying the British outposts on Tahiti. However, some of the men on the crew fell madly in love with the local women and refused to return to Britain. So a group led by Fletcher Christian mutinied, hijacked the ship, and abandoned the captain and loyal crew members on a small dinghy. It was clear to the mutineers that they were facing the gallows after this action, so they decided to look for a place to hide. The leader of the mutineers knew about the uninhabited Pitcairn Islands, which existed on British sea charts, but their coordinates were drawn incorrectly. After a long search, they landed on the main island of the Pitcairn Islands in January 1790 and settled there. They brought plants and animals from the Bounty and built a primitive settlement, which is still the capital of the island. They also set fire to their ship so that no one could ever find them. The mutineers lived in peace on the island for many years and were able to build a new home away from civilization. The mutineers, by the way, consisted of 9 Europeans, 6 Polynesian men, and 12 Polynesian women. And exactly here lay the first big problem. Each of the Europeans took a Polynesian woman as his wife, and the 6 Polynesian men had to share the remaining 3. In addition, the Europeans also imposed their European way of life on the others. The conflict finally escalated when the wife of the blacksmith John Williams died and he snatched one of the 3 wives away from the Polynesians. The Polynesians then killed Williams and 3 other Europeans. The latter killed the 3 Polynesians as an act of revenge. After these riots, the remaining Europeans became addicted to alcohol, which they learned to brew themselves from the sugary root of the club lily. The result was more deaths from accidents and arguments while intoxicated. By 1800, 10 years after arriving on the island, only the European John Adams remained with 10 Polynesian women and 23 children. He forbade alcohol, became a strong believer, and is considered the first head of the islands, which is why he is still revered today as the founding father. It was not until 1808 that the islands were actually discovered by an American whaler, and independently, 2 British warships also discovered the islands in 1814. They were so amazed by the peaceful and God-fearing community that they acquitted Adams and refrained from bringing him to Great Britain for his certain death sentence. However, the British, on the contrary, claimed the islands as a colony, and in fact they still are to this day. Due to natural disasters, many inhabitants left the islands again and again, but some returned. Thus, 50 inhabitants still live on the island today, all of whom are considered descendants of the mutineers. Despite the adverse circumstances, they live as a strong community with their own traditions and also their own language, Pitcairn English. The British government is very keen to encourage immigration to the islands, as it is determined to hold onto the colony. If you decide to immigrate, the British government will give you a free piece of land, complete tax exemption, and there is now also a partially stable Wi-Fi connection. Due to the total isolation, however, only very few people have taken up the offer so far. The journey to the archipelago alone is a true odyssey, but in spite of this, for some years now even cruise ships have been lost on the islands, boosting the local economy. Otherwise, however, the Pitcairn Islands remain a destination for absolute adventurers. By the way, the Pitcairn Islands have been competing with Tristan da Cunha Island for the title of the most isolated island in the world for quite some time. For the trip to the second island you need more time, but according to the measured distance from the continents, the Pitcairn Islands clearly trump it. But I will certainly make a video about the other islands.